future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. Instead of you making all decisions, you have some person and you're making your decision on what you're going to eat, whether you're going to shoot guns or not, whether you're going to hunt or not, whether you're going to drive or not, where you're going to live. Maybe they're going to put you in a 15-minute city now. Can't have a new world government and a U.S. Constitution. You would be under them. Like the EU over England, they broke away, right? Any mention of it will earn you a distinction of conspiracy theorists. Well, a lot of conspiracies came true, though, didn't they? The mask. Anyway, we won't go through that. This, despite the fact that almost every U.S. administration since that of Jimmy Carter has stated its primary goal is what? The creation of a new world order. If you could hit the subscribe button and help us build better, stronger men, we would appreciate it. And he goes on to name people all on board with the New World Order. And they've been bankrolled by billionaires bent on forcing it down Americans' throats. We know it's anti-American, he says. We know it's globalist. But what are the major tenets of the New World Order? And this is why we're doing this. According to him, we can do one on the Constitution. We can do one on economics. This is just one start. Based on written and verbalized statements about the world they envision, the high priest, he calls them, and priestess of the New World Order would all agree on at least 8 things, which he lists below. Keep in mind, while reading the list, that these priests and priestesses sit in all the most prominent seats of power, including the Secretary General of the United Nations, the Vatican's false papacy, the International Monetary Fund, the World Health Organization, well, we know what happened with who, right? UNICEF, the trustees of most major universities and foundations, corporate boardrooms of multinational companies, the New York Stock Exchange, the Federal Reserve Board, at least half the governor's mansion, those agencies he names here, all those letter agencies. My point is this: patriotic traditional Christianity, with its emphasis on God, family, and country, is opposed not merely by a deep state in Washington, as President Trump, he says, discovered over the last 4 years. The deep state is augmented by the deep media, deep academia, deep law enforcement, deep corporate boardrooms, and deep church. Then you have deep Hollywood and deep entertainment. A lot coming at you as men today. And you men are the protectors of your family. So why is this important? You men have to know what's going on, or you can't protect yourself and your families. And you can't build businesses if you're under some world authority. We have the most magnificent Constitution written if you protect it. It protects you, but you have to protect it. It goes both ways. Peacefully. So he goes on to say, we end up in an epic battle, David versus Goliath, spiritual struggle between good and evil. Okay, he goes on. Let's go to the 8 things. The NWO he's saying, is Antichrist. It is not necessarily anti-God, but it is Antichrist. He calls out some godless leaders and says they won't hesitate to throw in references to God and faith when speaking for public consumption. And he has some leaders listed here. But if anyone speaks specifically of a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, the Son of God, whose teachings are fundamental as our heritage to a free people, he's saying they are automatically disqualified from participation in the newly ordered society being prepared by the globalists. Throw out that Bible. That's why he said they worked against the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett. It was pretty wretched, remember? She was a devout Catholic, and he says mother of 7. And when she was being confirmed at the Supreme Court, they went against her, right? The NWO is anti-family. Now, we can come back and do the 45 tenets of communism from a great book I read, because that would be good too, because you'll see that this New World Order, the communists wanted to have this overall one world government of communism. The Nazis planned to have a one world government, right? So this goes over and over under different names: socialist, communist, progressive, leftist. It's this design for centralized power, and We don't even in America want centralized power in Washington, right? We certainly don't want it overseas. We already have an administrative state here where you can't accomplish much, right? When it's not in the administrative state, you can do what? You can go to your local congressman and maybe have someone listen to you and hear you. But let's stay with this. This could be long. He's saying the NWO is anti-family. Here was my point on that. The communist, Stalin, said, we have to break up the American family. That's the way. So communists are anti-family. The cultural Marxists were anti-family. Control people and people who want power. Here's my point. Want to destroy that smallest political institution of the American family or the family. They gain power if big government, centralized government, world government gains power if the family is what? Weak and poor. So if they can take your money, take your virtue, take your beliefs, you'll be very weak and they will be unopposed, right? If you have no money, it's difficult to fight. It is no coincidence, he goes on to say, that Black Lives Matter, a Marxist organization, included on its website that it seeks the destruction of the Western Christian notion of the nuclear family. The idea that God reserves marriage for a man and a woman and that they alone should have ultimate say over how their children are raised. So there's a battle for the children right now going on. There's certain centralized factions. There's certain factions that don't want you to have authority over your own children. They want the schools or the state. They want the school to be able to do something. They want doctors to be able to do something behind your back without telling you, for a 13-year-old, for a 10-year-old. So there it is. You see it in the politics. What's happening here? And what is that? The humanistic society that makes up the New World Order. The New World Order will raise your children. You won't. They'll be their children. In fact, at some point they'll say don't have any children, right? Or you get one. They'll be telling you because they want to what? One part of the New World Order is they want depopulation, right? They want all the land for themselves and they want you to live in a little tiny spot. Then they'll have all the cars and they'll have all the guns, right? Only for you, not for them. Only for thee, not for me, right? And in this society, it takes a village, he goes on to say, to raise a child. Let's go back to this, that village encouraged prepubescent children to deny their biological gender. Well, that's a big battle going on right now, right? It defends the abusive practice of injecting them with chemicals to stop the natural formation of their bodies. That's a direct attack on what? That's back to point number one, right? If God created male and female, and you disagree, you're actually attacking God, right? Yes. Now, he goes on to say it's demonic. He says it's demonic to the core because it denies the people are created, as President Trump says, in the holy image of God. And, of course, the Bible says that. All right, number three, the New World Order works against nations and national sovereignty. Well, we know this is true. Trump was a large nationalist, and they abhorred Trump. And he was direct with them and told the truth to them. Nations are described throughout the Bible as ordained by God. And so, of course, the humanistic, materialistic New World Order must declare war on nations. And you've seen this. And do everything in its power to water them down, right? They want to water down our Constitution, water down our identity, water down our American ideals, water down what it is to be an American, water down our virtue, water down that we were a nation founded on Christian values. Their unique individual culture, traditions, language, the English language, keeps us what? Able to communicate. What do you want to do if you want to break up a marriage? Have bad communication, right? So if you have all these different languages, that's more difficult to communicate with people. Because in Western society, those cultural norms were, well, I just went through this, were defined by Judeo-Christian values, traditions, and norms. Now, he talks about the borders. This explains the left's war on borders, right? Well, let's face it, the left wants votes. And to get to this centralized power and more control and power, They want the votes, the mail-in voting, and you can look at election integrity. And then you can look at just importing voters and not following the laws and executing the laws of the nation. Either we're going to have laws or not, right? The whole point of the border is there is a law. It's written. It's the executive's ability task as president, actually one of his few tasks. There's not much to do up there. Most of the power resides in the states. Now, if the federal government doesn't do it, the states have to do it. But to protect our borders, secure our borders. He goes on to talk about the English national language. A common language is essential ingredient to any successful nation. So they know that, right? They know if we don't have the same traditions, cultures, we're going to be like the Baltic states, right? We're not going to get along well. Even with federalism, which we talked about, so I'm not going to go over it. You have to have some things in common in a nation. So these are important to you. We need the same traditions, the same language. Now, you can have different things going on in different states because what do we say? The state's powers are indefinite. The federal government's powers are limited, specific, indefinite, and numerous. Limited, specific, few. Federal government. Okay, the globalist left has declared a war on nationhood because whether they acknowledge it or not, they buy into an ideology. Well, he's saying it's Luciferian, so Jesus Christ has a plan revealed in the Bible. That's true in Revelations. You can read it. Anything biblical is opposed by Satan. And this is a big one, the NWO devalues life and believes the earth is overpopulated with useless eaters. So you've seen the insect videos probably. He goes on and lists a bunch of people here. I don't know that we need to list them all. But all these people and power elites that advocate abortion on demand, the world is overpopulated, humans breathing airs, driving cars, we can't, I call them the no fun party too, and the no fun faction, because you're not supposed to, you can't drive a V8. They probably don't want you smoking cigars, don't want you shooting guns, don't want you doing anything manly. Let's just do away with men. And they are, right? They're trying to confuse men that they aren't men, and they're trying to confuse feminine women that they need to be boys, which can't happen. So that's right. Anyone who defies the pagan agenda of favoring death over life, sterilization over production, cannot be a member in good standing of the new ordered society that's being pre-planned for every human being. You will own nothing and be happy, right? They must be identified, rooted out, and barred from any position of influence in government, major corporations, media, academia, police too, right? Military too, right? That's why the left went absolutely insane with rage when Trump made that nomination for the Supreme Court, like Judge Barrett. The NWO advocates free trade over fair trade. So free trade versus fair trade. These climate accords, right? It's not fair for you Americans if America follows climate accord, but China and India don't, and actually China and India are polluting much more, right? That hurts who? You. That hurts Americans. That hurts American manufacturing if we can't manufacture here, and our manufacturers have to follow rules that China doesn't have to follow, that India doesn't have to follow. It hurts you. It hurts having jobs in America. It's ridiculous. No good global citizen. And this is a point. We're American citizens, and we love being American. They want to have just good global citizens, whatever they define at the moment, and they can change it at any time because there'll be no constitution. Social credit scores could come in. Surveillance, Karen. There's your surveillance, Karen. You don't want to be surveilled like in 1984. Another reason for the priests and priestesses of the NWO to hate Trump because he fights for fairness and Americans trade with other countries. Okay, he's getting into Trump here. I'm trying to make it more just general for you. Okay, let's stay out of the politics here. It's more important is the freedom versus tyranny versus the pay attention to particular politicians and whether they want to give you more freedom or less freedom, whether they want to defend and protect the Constitution or not, whether they're moving away from American sovereignty or to. That's the real question. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's, are they for your freedom or not? Are they for the Constitution or not? I mean, you had a bunch of Republicans signing a 1.7 trillion. So, all right, America must not only attack its Christian roots. Okay, starting a trade war with China. This is an integral takedown. In order to dethrone America, you must not only attack its Christian roots, you must attack its ability to provide prosperity to the hardworking middle class families who remain independent of the government. Now, this is true, right? Totalitarians must destroy the middle class. The middle class is the barrier to totalitarians. And you've seen the middle class damaged the last 3 years severely. And they're trying to do more damage with this inflation, right? That we just did a currency. You damage the currency, you devalue the dollar, it hurts whom? The middle class. The middle class can stand against totalitarians. You want a strong middle class in America. He says you must tax and regulate them into the poorhouse, right? Think if the government irresponsibly, which they have done, both sides, I think it was 17 Republicans in December voted for more money going to Ukraine and 1.7 trillion. That's irresponsible. And some would say, does it even have a good intention, or is this the intention to go to globalism, right? Some would say the intention, they did what their intent was, to move us to globalism and break the middle class. Because in essence, that whether their intentions were not, whether they were good intentions or bad, what's the outcome? The outcome was it made middle class Americans poor. If you like these videos, please subscribe, comment, like, and hit the notification button.